let's talk about shoujo manga. For all, I don't know, 2 of you who are watching this who don't already know, shoujo manga are manga that are written for an intended audience of young women, much like shonen manga are written for an intended audience of young men. I've read a number of shoujo manga, but it's been quite a long time since I brought one up on Read Right to Left, because I usually don't have much to say about them. These are not manga written for somebody like me, and I try not to hold that against them. What would be the point of criticizing a series simply for not appealing to someone that lies well outside its intended demographic? So it takes something exceptional for me to talk about a shoujo series. Today's manga is a romantic series called Marmalade Boy, which is about a pair of step-siblings falling in love. Which is actually not the reason I've decided to talk about it. The amount of ickiness emanating from this incestuous affair is at first nominal. Koishikawa Miki and Matsura Yu are first introduced to each other when they're already hormone-crazed teenagers, and seem to have the hots for each other well before they get used to the idea of treating each other as siblings. What's far weirder is how they become siblings. One day, Miki and Yu's parents return from having randomly run into each other on vacation, and each couple has decided to mutually divorce and remarry with each other's spouses. Miki is understandably shocked, confused, and very against this arrangement, but she eventually relents when she realizes she's entirely on her own, since even Yu is okay with this. This is all supposed to be a weird, goofy sequence, but honestly, I just felt really bad for Miki as it was happening. To make things even weirder, both couples decide they're not going to live apart from one another. All 4 of them, and their kids, are just going to live together in one big house. Look, divorce is tough on kids. It's even tough on a lot of teenagers. Consequently, I'm sure one of the hardest parts of going through a divorce is breaking the news to your children. There are a lot of different ways of going about it, but none of them are completely painless. However, if I had to label one as the absolute worst, it would be the one where you expect them to accept it immediately while you act like nothing's wrong, and then proceed to place them in a situation where they're constantly reminded day in and day out that mommy and daddy don't love each other anymore. Now you may be wondering, why am I so upset by this one detail? It's just the backdrop for the entire rest of the manga, right? Maybe it appears that way right now, but trust me, you'll see differently soon enough. Anyway, let's talk a bit about Miki and Yu. Miki is pretty standard fare for a shoujo protagonist. She's straightforward, open, generally kind and sort of naive, and filled with positive energy. On the other hand, Yu is a bit secretive. He tends to hide his inner thoughts behind a teasing persona. The title Marmalade Boy is used as a reference to how there are some bitter points to his character, which most don't notice because of his sweet exterior. Which is kind of funny because originally the title Marmalade Boy referred to Miki. See, the mangaka Yoshimizu Wataru has been very open about the fact that she originally intended for Miki, Yu, and a few other main characters to be of the opposite gender, but she changed at the advice of her editor. The boy Miki was likened to Marmalade because he would have been spoiled and childish. The second meaning of the title is something she stretched to come up with later. So there's a great lesson for all you young authors out there. If you have to make changes to a story and thus a metaphor you were thinking of using is no longer applicable, just bullshit up a new symbolic meaning for it and jam it in anyway! There's a pretty immediate attraction between the 2 main characters. Miki to Yu because he's drop-dead gorgeous, and Yu to Miki because she's the main character. Yu is the one to make the first move on Miki, kissing her right in the lips while she pretends to be asleep. Kinda creepy, dude. When she calls him on this, Yu turns it around since he suspected she was awake the whole time, and he has a bit of fun at her expense. Yu clearly seems to enjoy teasing Miki about her being attracted to him, but the 2 start to get along very quickly. As siblings. Yeah, honestly, early on I was getting weirded out by the idea that the 2 of them were going to end up together romantically, because before long they really seemed to be getting along as brother and sister. Not to say that I think they should have gone from complete strangers to lovers in no time flat. It is nice to see them get along for a while first. But the way that they're getting along really paints them as having a fairly normal sibling relationship. You know, aside from the whole kissing her on the lips while she's in bed thing. I'm pretty sure that doesn't fall into the definition of normal sibling relationship. Anyway, it's just when Miki and Yu are starting to get along when all of a sudden their parents seem to be on the outs, and they announce that they're thinking of separating and remarrying their original partners. You have to wonder how the hell this group of impulsive half-wits ever managed to cobble together the attention span to raise children for this long. Bizarrely enough, Miki is actually the one to object to the change back, since she's by this point grown content with her new life. Also, she still has the hots for Yu. And get this. After she voices her opinion, the adults reveal that they were just pretending to fight. They don't want to separate. They just wanted to test Miki to see if she was still against their current arrangement. And they're so happy that she's fine with it now. So yeah, One day out of the blue, this girl's parents show up, drop the bomb on her that they're divorcing, have their new partners prepped and ready, and they're gonna spend the rest of their lives shoving in her face, and then they have the huevos to turn around and start testing her devotion to them. This isn't a sugar-sweet romantic comedy, people. It's a depiction of how cruel and thoughtless parents can be to their own fucking children without even realizing it. Let's get back to the romance story so we don't have to talk about these awful fucking people for a little while. And honestly, despite what I was saying earlier, it's pretty decent. The manga hits a lot of the same points that many other romance stories hit, like the misunderstanding that keeps them from getting together, assorted love triangles, and so on. But Marmalade Boy tends to hit those points in a good way. For example, there is no overcomplicated, super huge, mega love dodecahedron. At any given time, the romantic web surrounding Yu and Miki only includes about 3 other characters. So like, Miki's friend Ginta has a crush on her, and Yu's old girlfriend Arimi is still interested in him, and also Ginta's cousin has a crush on Arimi, and that's it. The manga takes place over the course of roughly 3 years, and characters and relationships actually change with time. So later on, when a few other characters are introduced that are romantically interested in Miki and Yu, Ginta and Arimi have moved on. The manga does have a tendency to pair off the rejected love interests with each other, which is not only a bit overly convenient, but also somewhat predictable. I mean, Ginta and Arimi form a scheme to make Miki jealous and take her attention off Yu by pretending to go out with each other, so of course they're going to end up together, come on! To the manga's credit, however, characters are never removed from love triangles via pairing up with someone else. They deal with the understanding that they're not going to end up with Miki or Yu, and with some difficulty they move on, and it's not until quite a bit later that they find love again. As for Miki and Yu themselves, they thankfully avoid one of my greatest pet peeves about manga romances, the last-minute hookup. The two confess their feelings for each other almost exactly halfway through the manga, and begin a relationship that lasts for some time. The manga starts to get a lot better when this happens, too. As difficult as I found it to get behind the idea of the two getting together, once they actually were together, I felt they made a good couple. They go on dates together, they share a lot of tender moments, and in general they seem to be really happy together. Gradually and consistently establish that a couple are happy together, so that when they're not together, the audience will give a shit. Why aren't more manga written this way? There's a very important subplot that starts to develop right before Miki and Yu get together that involves Yu searching for his biological father. As it turns out, Yu discovered some time ago that when his parents were getting married, his mother was pregnant by someone other than his father. This is established as the reason for Yu's closed-off personality, and for the whole second half of the series, he tries unsuccessfully to find his real father. You can see where this is going, can't you? Eventually, Yu discovers a photograph of his and Miki's parents when they were much younger, which proves that not only did they know each other before they met on vacation, but that they were already romantically involved as they are now. Yu draws the conclusion immediately that Miki's father is his father, and that the two of them are half-siblings. So he breaks up with Miki without explaining the situation to her. The two end up going to separate colleges and are absolutely miserable while apart. As much as they try, they can't give up on each other though. Even when Yu breaks down and tells Miki the truth, they can't help it. They love each other too much. So now, allow me to draw you a timeline showing my discomfort levels over the course of reading this manga. Step-siblings that are falling in love, that's a little weird. But their relationship seems innocent enough, and they're not really blood-related. Oh crap, they really are blood-related. Well, it's a good thing they discovered that before they went too far. It's gonna suck for them, but at least they can stay apart now before they make the mistake of committing incest! But oh wait, it gets better. So Miki and Yu are resolved that they're going to get together even in the face of this disturbing news, and they go to tell their parents about it. And it all just comes back to these fucking parents, doesn't it? At last we learned the truth about this fucked up family. The real truth. Miki's father and Yu's mother, and Yu's father and Miki's mother, were together in the past. They ended up getting into a big disagreement and they went their separate ways. Together. Together, but separate. You know what I mean. At the time, Yu's mother was pregnant by Miki's father, but she had a miscarriage, and then later, Yu was conceived. Yu's father really is his biological father. Much later, the parents did run into each other on vacation by coincidence, and old feelings were rekindled. So the good news is, Yu and Miki are not related by blood after all, and there's nothing to prevent them from getting together and eventually married. The bad news is, holy shit, these are the worst fucking parents! You mean to tell me that they came up with this bullshit lie and to continue to maintain it for 3 fucking years, never trusting their kids with the truth, even as they were growing up and going away to college? When were they planning to tell them? When they were fucking 30? You know, I get it. I really get it. It'd be weird and difficult for your kid to accept if you were to tell them that all of a sudden you're getting divorced and each of you are marrying your true loves that you've been searching for all this time because you only stayed together this whole time because you were each other's backup option. You know what else would be weird? If you were to lie and tell them the exact same fucking thing, except that you're marrying complete strangers! What the fuck was the point of doing this? Why hide their past together at all if they're just going to lie about it with the least comforting cover story they could think of? These 4 assholes just put their kids through all the pain of swallowing an uncomfortable truth without even telling them the goddamn truth. Can you imagine how some of their other parent-child conversations have gone? Honey, I'm sorry to tell you this, but Santa Claus isn't real. All those gifts under the tree really come from the Yakuza as payment for us not talking about the bodies in the backyard. So I just want everyone out there watching this who has kids or is thinking about one day having kids to just do me this one simple favor. Don't be like these parents. Think. Ponder it. Really think about it. Think about when it is appropriate to tell little white lies to your kids and when it is appropriate to trust them with the truth. The heart of Marmalade Boy is in a good place, and has a very positive image of young romance, and roughly the entire second third of it is a very nice read if you want something simple and heartwarming. The series is also good for a few laughs between Miki's blunt and energetic mannerisms and Yu's snappy remarks. As I said, the two of them together make for a pretty nice couple, and it's pretty easy to get behind them. However, the series is ruined by a dull start and by the fact that those goddamned awful parents are so crucial to the conclusion. I cannot recommend it except as a collection of multiple cute romantic moments. Once it goes into heavy drama, it becomes horrendous. Yoshimizu Wataru has written many other shoujo works, but I haven't read any of them. Hopefully some of them include more of the good elements from this series and fewer of the bad ones. Marmalade Boy has been adapted into an anime, a Taiwanese live-action series, and even a couple of video games. Both the manga and the anime were licensed by the now defunct Tokyo Pop, meaning the series is now out of print in English. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, be good to your family, and forget what they taught you in school, always read right to left. Oh, and by the way, you get slapped by his father for hiding the truth from him for so long. Parent of the fucking year.